Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. So another WWE Monday Night Raw in the books, and no Cody Rhodes to be found. Where is Cody? Everybody wants to know. Where is Cody? Didn't show up at Elimination Chamber. No Raw, maybe SmackDown? That's a possibility. Hell, maybe NXT 2.0 tonight. I don't know. Maybe that's a possibility. It didn't stop WWE from referencing him, though. Their digital media team have been referencing Cody in sort of very non-direct, trying to be sly ways. And Edge kind of hinted at him last night, but we all know Edge is going to be taking on the phenomenal one, AJ Styles, and WrestleMania. I feel like that's going to be the match. That leaves us with the question, well, what is Cody going to be doing at WrestleMania? Because I'll tell you what, he's going to be showing up soon enough. WWE doesn't do this kind of thing. They don't start just like referencing somebody unless it's actually going to happen. It's just they're trying to be sly about how they're going to debut him. Miz was saying, oh, my tag team partner is going to be Dashing, and then ended up being Logan Paul. And so I have narrowed the suspects down to a couple, and there's two that I think might be possibilities if you play the math out correctly. So let's go ahead and start with here's the possibilities. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are on varying degrees of likely and not likely to happen. And then I've got one that I think might be the thing. Let's go ahead and run this down. We got first up, possibly Cody could team up with Ray against Miz and Logan Paul. This would mean that Dom would have to be nudged out somehow. He'd have to be taken out of the equation, perhaps as a result of a beatdown between Miz and Logan Paul on Dom Mysterio, and then Cody comes and takes his place. This is probably, of all these options, the most underwhelming of them all. I mean, you could, there's a precedent for that. I mean, maybe Cody would come out and say, you know, Miz, Logan Paul, you guys are the reason that you types are the reason why I left this place in the first place, because Logan Paul's out here taking the spot of all the young talent, by the way, that I helped build up over in AEW, and I'm here to do that. Of course, it'd be hypocritical given that he's taken Dom's spot, but Dom would be injured in kayfabe, so it kind of, that would matter. And then, of course, Ray, a legend, kind of like Cody, they probably have some amount of history, at least metaphorically, given that they're both from wrestling families, right? So there you go. There's a possibility. Not really. I'm not huge on that. It's kind of underwhelming. I'd be fine with it, but it's kind of underwhelming. I love Ray, though, and I like Miz a lot. And I'll be honest with you. Unpopular opinion here. I know Logan Paul might be a piece of shit in real life, but I kind of find him entertaining when he shows up in WWE. I'm sorry. The guy knows how to work a mic. At this point, he is really comfortable in front of the crowds. He kind of looks like a wrestler. I'm sorry. Feel free to unsubscribe. No, by the way, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button. Moving on. Next up, this is also probably not likely, given that I feel like Sami Zayn is going to be fighting Johnny Knoxville for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. But maybe he's not actually going to be wrestling Johnny Knoxville. Maybe Johnny Knoxville is going to bring in like a proxy in the form of Cody Rhodes, given that they're both kind of in show business also. This is probably the least likely, to be honest with you. But the Cody is known in his time in the WWE for bringing back the white strap Intercontinental Championship, and that looked like $1 million. The current one has barely been used. The Shinsuke Nakamura had like a 6-month reign with one title shot or one title defense. I think that's kind of true. And so have Cody face Sami for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania, have Cody win that title, and sort of elevate their upper mid-card, because that mid-card is in shambles right now. Nobody's really doing anything in that mid-card. Sami's got that title. Shinsuke didn't do anything with it beyond elevate Boogs. So, I don't know, have Cody come in and reinvigorate that upper mid-card. And SmackDown, have him face Roman Reigns, maybe a couple months from now. And he can lose to Roman Reigns. Next up, how about this? So Damien Priest offered an open challenge to anybody for, I think, 2 weeks from now or next week or something like that. Finn Balor stepped up and said, I'll be your challenger, right? What if I had this theory that Damien Priest is slowly headed towards just being Damien? He's going to be a bad guy. And maybe the match next week against Finn Balor sort of somehow, some way is the thing that triggers the Damien. He drops the Priest, so he's just a bad guy. And maybe to make the save, Cody, full on in his Homelander gear, comes out and makes the save. I don't know how you get there, but Cody looks like that U.S. title belongs on him, more so than the TNT title did. When he gets dolled up in that red, white, and blue stuff, you put that title on him, it just looks like it fits. It makes sense. And maybe he can do with that U.S. title what he did with the TNT title, which is basically elevated above like secondary belt status. I think that's kind of a cool idea. I think that's a possibility. That's got to be at least on the table. Immediately bring him in, have him win the U.S. title. Damien can go off and be a bad guy and face, I don't know, whoever else is on the roster, Edge or something. Who knows? Anyways, next up, I've got, this one is totally not likely going to happen ever, but you got to mention it. Cody versus Triple H. Triple H, of course, is coming off of, he's still, I think, probably recovering from whatever that heart condition he had was a couple months back. It's been a little while now. Evidently, he's not there at NXT 2.0. It's being run by like Shawn Michaels and Bruce Pritchard and somebody else or something. Triple H will probably never wrestle again. You probably think that, you know, given the severity, seemingly, of whatever heart condition he had, it's probably a safe bet that he wouldn't. He's already old, and he's already put his body through a lot. I mean, that's a speculation on my part. I hope I'm wrong. Kind of. And his last match was not great. Actually, his last match was against Randy Orton, and he wore dress slacks. So, yeah, I mean, that's sort of the obvious thing, is that Cody was sort of trying to be a version of Triple H there in AEW. He was teasing the pedigree for the longest time, so you could pick up that thread, perhaps. I don't know. I don't. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Certainly not at WrestleMania. But you got to put that in there, because I know if I didn't, you guys would start talking about it in the comments. Not going to happen. But I mean, I think people. It sort of makes sense, anyways. Next up, this one I thought about just last night because he had his first actual match on what might be sort of his eventual call up to Raw. I know he had one years ago, but that didn't count. Tommaso Ciampa versus Cody. You got the heart and soul of NXT, and you got the guy who built AEW. They're doing the same kind of thing over there in AEW with the Young Bucks and Undisputed Era. Why not have NXT versus AEW at WrestleMania? Cody versus Ciampa. I think that could really work. That's actually a really cool idea, but I don't think that Vince would think that Ciampa is a big name enough for Cody to take on. I don't think he thinks that's a big enough spot for Cody to take on. You're sort of then reminiscing about the Wednesday Night War, which AEW won, and I'm not sure Vince would want to reference that, although you could make a pretty cool story out of it. I think it'd be a really good match. There's a lot of cool there. I just think Vince would think that the whole Wednesday Night War thing is too small for, if you're paying Cody a bunch of money, you want to bring him in a high spot. I could see Vince not thinking that's a high spot. I kind of agree with that, to be honest with you, but it still makes me want to see it. And hopefully their paths will cross on Raw, unless Cody ends up on SmackDown, which SmackDown desperately needs an upper mid-card, and that's where he's going to land, let's face it. And finally, the one that I think is probably actually going to happen somehow, some way, and that's Cody versus Seth Rollins. It kind of makes sense. The rumor right now, and it seems like it's going to happen, is Kevin Owens versus Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. Because he keeps on talking shit about Texas. There's a thing that I forget who, either Fightful or Dave Meltzer, I'm sorry, I forget who. I'll try to find out and put the link in the description. Says that Kevin Owens and WWE's trying really hard to get Steve Austin for a match at WrestleMania against Kevin Owens. That's why Kevin Owens is running down Texas a lot. Now, I originally thought that it was going to be RK Bro versus Rollins and Owens for the tag titles. And I know they're trying to go that route, and they just won that match last night. But I feel like that's not going to happen because Kevin Owens is already going to have a match against Stone Cold Steve Austin. Edge is going to be fighting AJ Styles. RK Bro might be fighting, I don't know, Alpha Academy or something. So everybody's wrapped up in something, and that leaves Seth Rollins with kind of nothing to do. He's a bad guy. Cody Rhodes is going to be a good guy when he comes in, at least at the start. People are going to cheer him because he's new. So isn't that the match? Maybe that's the match. Seth Rollins, he's a high-profile guy. He just challenged Roman for the Universal title and actually won. technically via DQ. Cody versus Seth Rollins is kind of the math that settles that sort of is what you're left with. I think. That's my thought. I think that's going to happen. They crossed paths like a couple times back in the day, but it was back when Stardust was doing tag team stuff and Rollins was kind of new with the Shield, and they didn't really cross much paths after that. But yeah, I kind of feel like that's the match, and you can justify it any number of story ways. You can just justify it by Seth Rollins coming out saying, "Hey, what are you doing here, pretender?" And Cody could say, "Oh, I belong here." Cool suit. So I don't know. That's probably going to be the match right there. That's my own personal speculation. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Am I missing somebody? Am I missing something? Who can he fight over there on SmackDown that isn't Sami Zayn, who's going to have a match probably with Johnny Knoxville? There's not really a whole lot of people there on SmackDown for him to take on. So I think maybe, Drew McIntyre is probably going to be doing Happy Corbin. And Drew McIntyre's a good guy. Nobody wants that match. So yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do me a favor, hit that like and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Until next time, we'll talk to you later. Check out this video. I don't know where Gypsy is. She's hanging out with Lacey right now, I think. Check out this video right here. Thanks, everybody.